Okay, today we're joined by Stu Cowan, sports editor of the Montreal Gazette. Stu, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure.
So we were going to talk about the Montreal Canadiens. Obviously, the Canucks are visiting them on Tuesday for the final game of their 7-game road trip. Let's talk about the Canadiens first, Stu. Obviously, the Canadiens, this is their first home game back after a disappointing 1-3 road trip. They've lost 6 of 7. Power play is a concern. What's gone into that, do you think? How do you analyze that? Their sort of statistical look. We talked at the end of October, actually, about the Canadiens, and their numbers were kind of mediocre, but they were leading the conference and playing very, very well. Have the numbers caught up to them, or what's gone into this?
A little bit. They were winning a lot of games earlier in the season they probably shouldn't have won. They've been giving up the first goal in about 75% of their games, and it's always tough when you're coming back. Carey Price steals games for this team, and he did that, and he'll have to continue doing that going forward. But it's a case they were on a tough road trip. The death of Jean Beliveau also probably had an impact on the team. They were on the road when that happened, and they're struggling on the power play. They've been struggling all season on the power play, and that's going to they have a problem scoring goals. It's been the Canadiens' problem for a long time. They don't have the Sedin twins or something like that are going to put up all those points every year. And they're coming back from a long road trip. They'll be pumped up, I'm sure, Tuesday night. But again, the problem with this team is they have problems putting the puck in the back of the net.
Okay, let's talk about Jean Beliveau. Obviously, anybody who's ever bumped into him anyway, met him or talked to him, have come away just thinking what an amazing person he was. A great hockey player, a great person, a great Montreal Canadiens player, a great Canadian, all that stuff. I'm sure the players revered him in many ways. This is going to be the first game back, the first home game. There's going to be obviously a recognition of him at the game. Is that going to be a boost for them, do you think, or a distraction? Sometimes these kind of ceremonies can have the opposite effect.
It's hard to say. It could go either way. I know they played on the road. They played a road game after the day that the day after Beliveau had died. I believe they were in Minnesota, and they came out really flat in that. It's going to be a real emotional scene. I mean, yesterday they had the Bell Center open from 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. with people lined up to pay their respects, and Belivau's wife was there. The older players, Yvon Cornway was there. They're devastated. I talked with Guy Lapointe on Friday. He was on a scouting trip with the Minnesota Wild, and he could barely speak. It's incredible. He retired after the 1971 season when they won the Cup, so he hasn't played in all these years, but he's still such a legend in the city. He's as good of a hockey player he was an even better man and had such an impact after hockey with all the charity work he did, and the fact he never turned down an autograph, and his autograph was always so legible. He was a perfect gentleman, as they say. You've heard people saying everybody should grow up and want to be like a Jean Beliveau, both the way he was on and off the ice. So it'll be interesting to see. It'll be an emotional scene at the Bell Center. We're not sure exactly what the Canadiens are going to do, but there will be some kind of a pregame ceremony. And I think it might be hard for the Canadiens to get pumped up after that. I think it might be, if anything, it might be a little bit of an emotional letdown.
Absolutely. I'm sure it'll be a very moving ceremony. Just looking at the Canucks, obviously as I mentioned earlier, they're coming in. This is the final game of a 7-game trip, very long trip, 7 games in 12 days. Perhaps an opportunity to kind of jump on this team as they come in. The Sedin twins obviously lead the Canucks. They're the guys that you have to stop. They've had kind of a quiet 3 games here heading into this game. What do you think the Canadiens are going to do strategically? Imagine PK will be out there against them, see them quite a bit. But what do you think they'll do to try to shut them down?
PK will be out there quite a bit. Mike Weaver didn't practice today. He's injured. So the Canadiens have sort of had a revolving door on defense since they've made these trades, bringing in Allen and Gonchar and these sort of veteran guys. So it'll be interesting to see who is in the lineup. It looks like Weaver probably won't play, but PK will be on the ice against them. As you're saying, the Canucks coming at the end of a road trip, but getting up to play for a game in Montreal isn't usually a problem for teams with the atmosphere in that building. And as I said with the Beliveau ceremony before, I would expect the Canucks to come out flying against the Canadiens. But PK will definitely see a lot of ice time. He's been the center of attention here. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated recently. 60 Minutes is doing a feature on him. The New Yorker has a feature on him. Everybody wants a piece of PK, it seems. He's been playing okay this season. He hasn't been up to Norris Trophy standards. But as I said, he needs to play a little better for the Canadiens to win. And as I said, they need to start putting the puck in the net. They rank 22nd in goals per game this season. The Canadiens are at 2.41, and Michel Terrien's line is always, you need 3 goals to win a game. So it should be an interesting game from their practicing today in Brossard, and they'll get their feet back after the long road trip, and we'll see how they come out tomorrow night.
Yeah, it should be a great game to watch. I look forward to it. We've been joined by Stu Cowan, sports editor of the Montreal Gazette. Thanks very much, Stu.
Anytime.